What's up, guys? Welcome to Red and Gold. Today, I am joined by my co-host, not a guest because he's been on the channel so many times, and he is now the co-host of Red and Gold. How you doing today, Ben?
I'm doing well. We're a few days out here from Christmas. We got the Titans 49ers tomorrow. The Matrix just came out today, man. Spider-Man was awesome. It's a good time of the year, man.
Yep, it definitely is. Spider-Man was amazing, amazing movie. One of the best Marvel movies, at least in my personal opinion. Like
It's
you said,
number
Matrix
one for
also
me. Number
is
one for
pretty
me,
good.
I mean.
I think
Number
it's number
one.
it's number one for me, but like the only competition that it has is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I don't know if
hmm
you've watched that, but that's good also.
So I've watched it only like half of it, but I'm gonna watch the rest of it at some point here pretty soon. I'm excited for that movie. I really know it gets great reviews. So
Yeah,
I'll hold back on saying that's the best until I watch into the Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse. So
check it
I'll
out.
let you know my
Check it out.
updated rankings.
Yeah, definitely check it out because those are like my top two because both of those movies are incredible. One gives me like humor and everything I want in the Spider-Man movie. The other one brings back so much nostalgia, but both of them are really good. But let's talk about the Niners. I know we talked about the movie, Spider-Man. Let's talk about the Niners, our favorite team in the NFL. So let's jump right into it. Starting off with, are the 49ers Super Bowl contenders?
uh yes, I think they are. But I think it's because of a few different reasons, and part of it isn't the Niners. So let's start with the obvious, right? The rest of the NFC is kind of falling apart right now. I mean, Green Bay is the only solid team, I would say, at the top right now. Maybe the Rams too. But I don't think any of those other three division winners, I don't really have confidence in them. And I think out of all of those three, Dallas, Tampa Bay, Arizona, Dallas is probably the team I have the most confidence in. I just think where the 49ers are positioned and the way they're playing football right now and how good they've been recently, it's right where you want to be when the playoffs are starting. You want to be hot while the playoffs are starting, right? So looking at how the rest of the league or the NFC, sorry, in specific is playing right now, I think 49ers fans should be really optimistic because I think the road to the Super Bowl is a lot easier than I thought it was 2-3 weeks ago. And you know what? They also have all their players playing their best football right now. I'll say that. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is playing the best version of his football right now. I think George Kittle has looked as good as he's ever looked. Debo Samuel has obviously been electric this season. Ayuk is coming into his own. Jawan Jennings even is starting to finally get throws his way. And now you guys see guys on the defensive side of the ball really start to step up. Obviously Jaquiski Tartt had that huge game against the Falcons. I thought he was the best player on the field for the 49ers. But when you just look across the board, Jimmy Ward, Tart, Fred Warner, they're really doing a great job in coverage and allowing the secondary to be a little lackluster, right? You don't have to worry about the corners as much when you have elite guys at every other single spot, and they can make up for mistakes that those corners are making. And then when I look at their defensive line, they're playing great. Nick Bosa has been Nick Bosa all season, but now other guys are starting to make a difference. Obviously, the immersion or Arden Key coming onto the scene, how he has really helped out this football team. But you know what? Eric Armstead also deserves a ton of credit because while he doesn't necessarily get all the sack numbers and all the statistics that you might see, the pressure he's creating, the havoc he's wreaking on that defensive line, and the run stuffing he's getting for the 49ers is huge. So I think across the board, this team is playing its best football right now. And if they can continue to do that, they're Super Bowl contenders because, like I said, I think really there's only one team you're terrified of. The other 4 to 5 teams you might be facing, not that I don't think the 49ers would lose to those teams, but I'd at least feel like they have a puncher's chance. When you look at a team like Green Bay playing in Green Bay too, when you allow the Packers to get rest and they're getting good players back at this time of the season, it's really the only team I look at that I say, wow, I just don't think the 49ers have enough to beat those guys. I think across the board, the rest of the way, even a team like Dallas, that's not even necessarily that great of a matchup. I feel like it's a winnable game, even though I wouldn't favor the 49ers in it. So, yeah, I think the 49ers are Super Bowl contenders. And I think the context really matters too. This isn't the same team we saw week 5. It's just the things have really changed for the 49ers, and things around the 49ers have changed so much. They have to be Super Bowl contenders, at least right now. Now, do I think they'll actually do it? No, I just don't think so. But given, the rest of the league, the NFC, the way they're playing, Super Bowl contenders, absolutely. 49ers are Super Bowl contenders.
No, they're not Super Bowl contenders. As much as I would like them to be Super Bowl contenders, they're not Super Bowl contenders. Now, the biggest reason I say they're not Super Bowl contenders is because Jimmy Garoppolo is the quarterback. Now, even if Trey Lance was starting, I don't think we would win the Super Bowl chance. I don't even think we'd have a chance of making the Super Bowl with Trey Lance either. But the only reason I'm saying Jimmy Garoppolo is the reason why we're not Super Bowl contenders is because we've seen games where the run game isn't effective. You've seen games like look at just that Seattle game, right? Run game wasn't going. Debo Samuel was out, and Jimmy Garoppolo threw interceptions. Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't making throws. Jimmy Garoppolo's taking sacks. Jimmy Garoppolo's getting a safety. Like, I'm not saying that Jimmy Garoppolo's the main reason that we might not be Super Bowl contenders, but at the same time, when you look at when the run game isn't flowing, the run game isn't effective, and then Jimmy Garoppolo should throw the football. Jimmy Garoppolo can't do that. When Jimmy Garoppolo should throw the ball 30 times, in majority of the games that Jimmy Garoppolo should throw the ball 30, 40 times, majority of those games, or at least 50% of those games, we lose. And Jimmy Garoppolo has at least one, if not two, turnovers.
I will say, I think that Seattle example is it's perfect to illustrate what you're saying. But on the other end of the coin with Jimmy Garoppolo, while he does have those lackluster throws, his lackluster series, what I'll say about Jimmy is this year he hasn't compounded mistakes, right? When he makes a mistake in a game, even the Cincinnati game, he made a mistake, right? He didn't compound that with another mistake. And that's why I think Jimmy Garoppolo is playing his best football right now with the 49ers, at least, is because they're doing exactly what they're asking of him. And you can't expect more than that. And when you take all that into consideration, you look at the rest of the quarterbacks they could be potentially facing. Dak Prescott doesn't really have playoff experience, hasn't really been hot right now. Kyler Murray doesn't have playoff experience, hasn't really been hot right now. Really, the only two other quarterbacks you look across are Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. The rest, Jimmy Garoppolo is as experienced in the playoffs or more than all those players. So I think while Jimmy Garoppolo is a potential downside, it's not all because of him. I think the reason they actually lose a playoff game and the reason they're not maybe Super Bowl contenders is because of those cornerbacks and the fact that after a while, you can do as much as you want to cover up those guys with Jimmy Ward, Tart, and Fred Warner. But if you're playing Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers and they zone in on Ambry Thomas and decide that they're going to pick them apart, there's just not much you can do, right? So that, to me, that's the one weakness I see with the 49ers. That's the weak link. I actually think with what Jimmy's been doing recently, as long as he doesn't have a Minnesota Vikings-esque game, right, where he should have had 3 turnovers, I don't think he's the problem with this team, and I don't think he'll be the reason why they're not Super Bowl contenders. I think the reason they're not Super Bowl contenders is because, like I said, part of it is him because you are paying him so much money, but independent of pay, right? Just looking at the players on the field, the way they're playing right now, Jimmy Garoppolo will not be the reason that they don't win the Super Bowl. I'll say that this year. I think it's not going to be because of him. I think it's going to be because of other external factors that, yeah, part of it has to do with the fact that you are paying Jimmy so much, right? But like I said, Jimmy hasn't compounded his mistakes this year. Now, am I saying Jimmy is a top 12, top 10 guy? No, he's not that. But we know exactly what he is. And when he maximizes that, like he has been recently, you can't argue with the results for the most part. I mean, obviously, they didn't win the Super Bowl in 2019. But considering how limited he's viewed as a quarterback, the fact that they got that far with him just proves that they could do it again, right? I'm not saying they will, but it's certainly not impossible for them to get to the Super Bowl or get to the NFC Championship game with Jimmy Garoppolo this year. And like you said, when they get away from that running formula, yeah, it doesn't go particularly well. But in the same stance, if Jimmy Garoppolo isn't making the mistakes that he was making 2 years ago when he did have his really bad games, right? I don't think he's going to be the reason they don't win that sort of game. Then you got to put the blame on the run game, because Jimmy, in my mind, has been doing his job exactly how they want him to do it. He's not the reason that they're winning games, but he's not the reason they're losing games either. And I think because of that, it's easy to say that they're not Super Bowl contenders because of Jimmy, and I certainly understand that, but I actually don't think it's him this year. I think the rest of the team around him, even though that defense is very good, there are just certain weaknesses on this team, like the right side of the offensive line, like those outside corners that when you get into the playoffs and you get a healthy team, right? Like a healthy Tampa Bay to me would have been a most terrifying matchup. But
a healthy Packers team is also scary. Like a healthy Packers team is also scary.
Yeah. But I think with a healthy Packers team, Tampa team specifically, they're a better run stuffing team. And that's just the strength of the 49ers, right? So when I look at it that way, like I said, pre-injury Tampa to me is right up there. But I mean, hey, no more Chris Godwin this year. Leonard Fournette, there's going to be some big question marks with him. I don't think it's going to be because of Jimmy this time, even though, yes, he's not necessarily the reason they're going to go out and win games. Sure, I get that. But in the same instance, I think you could point to certain things being his fault 2 years ago, but I don't think you can blame him for the same things this year, right? He just hasn't compounded those mistakes, even when he does have his mistakes, right? I would say when he has his bad games and he makes mistakes, he's doing just enough positively to make up for some of those mistakes, right? The problem was 2 years ago is he would throw an interception and then they would go down and drive and he would throw another or have a missed pass or something like that. You look at that Cincinnati game. I mean, he literally could have lost them the game on that play, and then he goes on that game-winning drive. I mean, he was terrible up through those first 3 quarters against Cincinnati, but the point is he didn't do enough for them to lose the game. And then when you put him in a position to potentially win it, he does. So I just can't argue with the results. I don't think it's going to be his fault if they're not Super Bowl contenders this year. It's not because of Jimmy Garoppolo. It's because of the front office's poor mismanagement of the quarterback position, paying so much to Jimmy Garoppolo, not allocating resources to other places. So if anyone's to blame for this season, it's the front office. It's not Jimmy Garoppolo.
Now, even outside of the turnovers, right? When the game is, let's say the game is on the line, all of these teams, when the game is on the line, who do I trust more to go and get me that touchdown? You can't run the ball with 1 minute left to get a touchdown when you have to go downfield and score a touchdown, not a field goal, right? A touchdown.
But I would say even that Cincinnati. But I would say while the Cincinnati game, it proves that while that's not going to be every game for Jimmy Garoppolo, and that's not going to be
every game.
No.
Jimmy Garoppolo almost threw an interception to Jesse Bates, and Jesse Bates legit dropped it.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, but also in the same stance, he's the reason they won that game. He just is. He's part of the reason they didn't win. They may have not won that game, but in the same stance, yeah, he has those mistakes, but then he does go on game-winning drives, and he does put his team in a position to win. With him, it's not. To me, the big thing always was that, if you were gonna have all the bad plays with Jimmy, you needed to have high positive upside explosive plays, right? We're not getting those now, but now we're also not getting as many turnover-worthy plays, as many multiple plays in a game, right? To where he's actually putting his team in a position where they can't win the game. Now he's just with what they've been doing recently, the way they've been operating their offense, the run game is certainly a part of it. And you know what? The 49ers run game isn't working. There's not a lot of quarterbacks that could make that offense work besides a top 10 guy, right? There's only 8 to 10 guys who'd really put the 49ers in a position to win if they couldn't run the ball in a given game. That's just their identity. So I can't blame him for, relying on that when that's how their team is built. What I will say is how he's allowing his playmakers to do the hard work and not put the ball in harm's way. It's a really smart brand of football in that, he's putting the ball in his playmakers' hands to win the game for them, right? They're not winning or losing the game because of Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, I remember that game, I believe against Arizona, right, where they probably should have won against Colt McCoy, but Ayuk fumbled and Kittle fumbled on like the first couple series. That's not Jimmy's fault. It's those guys' fault, right? So when I go back and look at this whole season, I'm not going to say Jimmy's necessarily improved, but what he's doing now is he's allowing Deebo Samuel and George Kittle to be the reason that they win or lose games, right? It's not because of Jimmy Garoppolo, whereas the problem 2 years ago is that he could lose games for them, right? He wasn't necessarily going to win them, but he could very well lose games for the 49ers. This year, he just hasn't lost games for the 49ers. He has made bad plays. Yeah, there's the Jesse Bates play, obviously, but in the same breath, he goes down and makes that 7-for-7 drive. You can't argue with that. You give him the next opportunity and he makes the most of it. So, I think it'd be one thing if he was throwing 2 interceptions in a game in crucial time and those were massive plays to where the 49ers specifically lost games because of him. That just hasn't happened in these last 8 weeks. So I think, like I said, he's not going to win you the game, but Jimmy Garoppolo isn't losing you this year. He's not going to be the reason you lose.
You said it. Jimmy Garoppolo's not going to win you the game. He's not going to lose you the game. When Jimmy Garoppolo has to win the game and he has to make a play and he has to win the game and he has to use his arm to win you a football game, because we already know playing Green Bay is not going to be easy. Playing the Cowboys is not going to be easy. Now, get it, Dak has been vulnerable the last couple of weeks. But we know that Cowboys offense can produce points. We know that Packers offense can produce points. And the Packers are only getting healthier week by week. Especially come playoff time, they're going to get pretty much a lot of the starters back, Jair Alexander back. They're going to be pretty much at full strength outside a couple of guys. But when the game was on the line and Jimmy Garoppolo has to make plays, and we're in that certain type of situation, can Jimmy Garoppolo do that? Can Jimmy Garoppolo put us in a situation that he has to win the game? I haven't seen that from Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, I get it. All those other guys haven't had, some of the guys like Dak hasn't had that much playoff experience. Kyler hasn't had that much playoff experience. But who do I trust more to go down the field and give me a
no. Obviously, Jimmy Garoppolo is the guy you trust the least out of all those guys. But what I will say is, I think he actually does have the ability to, I don't want to say win games, but I'll say, like, look at the Cincinnati and Minnesota game, for example, right? He's a big part of the reason why they won those games. And look, Ayuk made the game-winning play on that Cincinnati game, but Jimmy Garoppolo has proven this year he can win you games. Like, you don't want him to. You don't want to be put in that position, but he's certainly proven this year that if you put him in a position to actually win the game and you give him a chance, he can do it. And I mean, if things go differently against the Green Bay Packers, that's 3 big games where they win because of Jimmy Garoppolo, not because of George Kittle, not because of Deebo Samuel, because of what Jimmy Garoppolo did. So I'm going to have to disagree with you there. I mean, I'm not going to say he's outright going to win you games. He's not going to put the team on his shoulders. But backed into a corner, he's proven that he can do it. Now, do I think it's likely that he'll do it? No, but he can certainly do it. I don't think it's without the realm of possibility. And that's something I haven't really seen from him before this year, right? Is like actually going on a game-winning drive, right? And having big game-winning plays consecutively and not having those big mistakes when put in that position. Because there were games in 2019 and other years where the team was put in position to win and he would lose them the game. That's the difference I see now is he's not losing the game for them anymore. Now, he's not necessarily going to win it, but he's proven that he can win it actually. If you do give him the opportunity, it's not going to happen all the time. I'm not saying it's the likely, it's not there's not more than a 50% chance, but he can actually do it. I mean, he can. I don't think it's likely, but he's proven he can do it.
I mean, I get it. All your points are fair, but at the same time, do I have confidence that Jimmy Garoppolo can do that in the playoffs, which is a different story because Jimmy Garoppolo, yes, because Jimmy Garoppolo did against the Jacksonville
Hey, in a
Jaguars or
wild
against
card
another
game,
team.
you know,
Yes.
in a wild card game, maybe, but beyond that, probably not. And that's not. And that's what I'm saying is like
I'm not worried about the wild card.
But
I'm not
come
worried
on,
about
the
the wild card. I'm
49ers
talking
were
about
never going to win
divisional.
this. The 49ers were never going to win this Super Bowl this year, in my opinion, just the way they built their team. So, when I look at it that way, it's not Jimmy Garoppolo's fault. It's the front office's fault. Absolutely.
I mean, obviously the front office has its mistakes, but at the same time, when we ask the question, are the 49ers I just think it's because of Jimmy. Now, like you said, like I get it, Jimmy Garoppolo, he has definitely improved from 2019 because 2019 he would put you in a situation to lose football games because 2019 he would have bad plays. Even in the beginning of the season, like you look in the beginning of the season, Jimmy
just
Garoppolo,
that Minnesota game. I mean, that is the prime example of Jimmy Garoppolo trying to lose you a game, right? He didn't lose that game in 2019, but I mean, that's the kind of thing I don't see happening anymore. And that's what I'm saying is that's not happening. And on the other end of the spectrum, while it's not, all the time, listen, it didn't happen against Seattle. He did it against Cincinnati. He did it against Seattle. He did his job against Green Bay. The defense let him down. There are other external reasons for the 49ers not being Super Bowl contenders. It's not Jimmy Garoppolo.
I mean, I agree, but at the same time, I'm not worried about Jimmy Garoppolo putting me in a situation to lose because I haven't seen Jimmy Garoppolo do that a lot of times this year. But can he put me in a situation to win? And that's my biggest question mark when I say are the 49ers Super Bowl contenders? Because
and I'm telling you, Amin, he did it against Cincinnati twice. He let them go to a game-winning.
Is fine. I get it. He did it. But
they're a playoff team. That's a playoff team right now. I mean
that's a playoff team. I get it, but
Minnesota, another playoff team. Green Bay, another playoff team.
Minnesota is a playoff team.
They are right now.
They're not right now, aren't the the Niners and isn't the Washington football team or the Saints?
They're either right out of it or they're right there. Let me get this right. I saw some weird playoff picture stuff that I want to make sure I'm right about.
I think it's the Saints.
Yeah, it's the Saints right now, but I believe how things stand. No, it's the Vikings. It is the Vikings. So, yeah, the Vikings are in 7th right now. They're the last wild card team. Oh, Amin, we lost you. This is my show now, everyone. We're going to wait for Amin to drop back in. Oh, geez. But you know what? We'll move on to the next topic after this. I hope everyone's enjoying this. Make sure you drop a like for Amin. Make sure you subscribe to his YouTube channel. Check him out on Twitter too. Make sure like and subscribe. Amin, are you there? Okay.
Yes, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah. I was just saying we're gonna move on to the next topic, but I was making sure to let everybody know, like and subscribe.
Appreciate
comment. Let us know if you guys have any questions too. We'll try and get to some before the end of this. I know we got a lot to get through though.
We already spent like 23 minutes on one freaking topic.
We did.
Jimmy Garoppolo's controversial. Okay, no lie. Jimmy Garoppolo's on 49ers fans' minds. Especially on every show, pretty much a lot of people on a lot of shows that are Niner content creators is how we have to talk about Jimmy Garoppolo. One way or another. We have to fit him into our stream one way or another. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo's a controversial topic, okay? In any certain scenario, Jimmy Garoppolo's a controversial topic.
Absolutely.
And it sparks some debates. But let's move on. Okay, enough with the 49ers and Super Bowl contenders. Let's talk about some of the needs at the 49ers and a weak point that you mentioned already, a weak position group, which is the cornerback. With the cornerbacks, okay? The cornerback room is a weak position, especially with the injuries that we have right now. So the question I asked to you is, should the 49ers sign Rashad Breeland?
No way. No way. I mean, I'm pretty sure that guy's not on the Vikings anymore because, there's like a rumor he punched a coach or something. Like, there's some weird stuff going on, man. So, I think the 49ers, just say what you will about them, but the one thing they've stayed pretty consistent with, even going back to Harbaugh, is they just don't bring in these kinds of guys. That's just not what they do. And then looking at Rashad Breeland, is he better than some of what they have now? Sure, but Emmanuel Moseley could be coming back in 2 or 3 weeks. If not, he'll be back by the playoffs. The signing just doesn't make sense. This is a guy you would have to start. And yeah, is he better than Josh Norman? Sure. But doing that at this point in the season, bringing in a guy who has that kind of reputation, why would you do that? It just makes no sense to me. And yeah, is their quarterback situation bad? Sure. But I don't think it's like the guy I would be most worried about in a playoff game is Ambry Thomas, not Josh Norman. Look, Josh Norman is who he is. He's going to let up some big plays. He's going to have some penalties. But he's also been pretty decent these last few weeks. He hasn't been bad for the 49ers. He hasn't been the reason that, they get killed. Ambry Thomas has been getting cooked. I mean, it is just tough. I think I don't want to make a pure analysis on him just off this because I think it'd be interesting to see how he improves over time. But in terms of right now, he's the reason that cornerback room looks so bad. If they were playing Mosley and Josh Norman right now, things would be great, I think, really. Yeah. So, and Mosley should come back potentially, I think, by the Rams game, if not by the playoffs. Now, if Mosley was out for the whole season, yeah, I would consider this. But yeah, just this time of the year, the logistics of it, and considering all the off the field stuff with him, no way, you can't do it.
Well, I'm kind of 50-50 on this, honestly. Now, the way I look at it is here's the pros and cons in my opinion, right?
Well, let me add this too. I just don't want to bring in a guy that you're going to start right for 2 or 3 weeks, and then the playoffs come around and you just bench him. That's not going to go over well. So I just think the situation, given all the context around it, there's just no way you can do this.
Now, the way I'm looking at it is, obviously we know Rashad Breeland, and he played against us when he was on the Chiefs in the Super Bowl when he was on the Chiefs. But obviously we know what Rashad
Didn't he also flip off the 49ers sideline when they were playing the Vikings a few weeks ago? I'm pretty sure he did. So, I mean,
I didn't necessarily see that, but this is the first time this is news to me, so that's probably going to be a no there for the Niners. I think the Niners are getting a very hard pass for the Niners. But the way I look at it is, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, like I said, if Mosley was out for the season, that'd be one thing. But the fact that they have some confidence in him coming back, no way. No way you do this. And you know why? It's because they had better options for this kind of thing earlier in the season, right?
They did, but they didn't pull the trigger. That's the only thing. They're like,
but they didn't pull the trigger because they had Mosley and Norman and all the guys they were considering bringing in had off the field issues. So when I take that into consideration, it's just not going to happen.
I don't think the Niners are going to do it, but at the same time, the way I'm looking at it is, the Niners definitely do need cornerback help. We know Josh Norman, he's not bad. Fine, I say he's been improving week after week, but he still he still has big plays. He lets big plays happen. You look at that play last week against the Falcons. He sometimes, occasionally, I'm not saying every play, but he's not the greatest at coverage.
Ambry Thomas was getting mossed by Russell Gage. Russell Gage does not moss people. That is not his game. Yeah. And then Jamar Chase baptizes every corner he gets within, a distance of. It's just going to happen. He does it against Marlon Humphrey. I'm sure he's going to do it against Emmanuel Mosley and Josh Norman and Ambry Thomas. But, Ambry just tough look, man.
Ambry, bro. He's in position pretty much for everything, every majority of the time, at least this week against the Falcons. And he just straight up gets beat because either he gets Moss, or for whatever reason the ball's up in the air, he doesn't turn around, and
he just has ball bad skills. Yeah. He's not good at he's terrible at the catch point. He has terrible ball skills. You can be in position as much as you want. If you're not gonna do something about it, there are plenty of good corners who are not in position who will make the play, right? I'd rather have that guy than Ambry Thomas.
Yes, but what I was saying on Rashad Breeland is, the way I look at it is, yes, we definitely do need corner help. We know what Ambry Thomas, and he's in position. I feel like he's improving slowly, but at the same time, when we have to go into the playoffs, the receivers are going to have to face. We're going to have to face guys like Devontae Adams, potentially, with the Cowboys, if we play them with their healthy, at their best, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup. So we're going to have to take some tough receivers. So, obviously, adding a guy like Rashad Breeland wouldn't be bad because he's a veteran. He has an experience in the league. But at the same time, the way I look at it is also with the Niners don't bring in guys that don't have good personalities and that don't feel well for the team. And
The
that's
only
the biggest
time
reason
they've done
why.
it recently was Reuben Foster, and that was a
Reuben
complete
Foster.
disaster.
That's the only one that
But
comes to mind in the
but that was a complete disaster, and that might be the reason why they don't bring in any of these guys anymore. It's because I mean, man, look how bad that went, you know.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but that's why that's like my one like downfall of bringing Rashad. But at the same time, if he didn't have those off-field issues, would it be bad to bring in Rashad? Like, no, because he has that veteran experience. I mean, it's just like you don't necessarily have to start him. Obviously, I think he wants to be a starter.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing with a guy like Rashad Breeland. You could theoretically bring him in, but he wants to go somewhere and be the outside starting corner, and that's just not necessarily going to happen for the rest of the season with the Niners. So I just don't think they have the right role for him, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, moving on to the next topic. Why do we have to talk about him again? I know. Everyone's like, why do we got to talk about him again? Ben's like, why again? We must bring him up again. He's on our mind 24/7, okay? Should the 49ers keep Jimmy G next year? Now, if you do not mind, I would like to start off with this one.
Go for it.
No. I'm joking. No. I think the 49ers should keep Jimmy Garoppolo next season on one condition, on one term. If they can reduce his contract. If they can cut his pay somewhat. That's the only way I see you bring back Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, if Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't know if he wants to, obviously every quarterback wants to be the starter, but at the same time, next year I think it's Trey Lance's year. Unless Trey Lance is not doing well in practice, he's not getting the playbook down, and he's just not doing well, then yeah, fine, Jimmy Garoppolo might be the starter next year. But at the same time, should Jimmy Garoppolo be back next year? Why not? If you can get him at a cheaper price, why not bring him back next year? He's a good guy to have on the bench. I don't think he should be starting next year unless if Trey Lance just isn't ready again next year. But at the same time, is Jimmy Garoppolo a guy that you wouldn't bring back at a cheaper price? No, because Jimmy Garoppolo's a serviceable backup. Now, is he worth being a $20 million backup next year? No. Is he worth keeping on the team for 20? Yeah. Is he worth getting paid $20 million just for him to sit on the bench and play some games if Trey Lance either isn't the starter or just isn't or gets injured? No. But if you can cut him or not cut him, but if you can get him at a cheaper price, why not bring him back next year? I mean, it's not a bad option. I mean, we've seen what he can do. He knows the system. So why not bring him back next year at a cheaper price? Now, I don't think he should be the starter, but at a cheaper price, I don't think it would be a bad move to bring him back next year. Even if he was just on the bench, I don't think it'd be the bad move because Jimmy Garoppolo's been here. He knows the system, and at a cheaper price, I think Jimmy Garoppolo wouldn't be a bad option for this team next year.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's a bad argument. But I'm gonna say flat out no, and I'll tell you why. I don't care about the price. It's because Trey Lance needs to be the no doubt starting quarterback for the 49ers. You don't want a backup quarterback who potentially threatens Trey Lance in any way, and that's the problem with bringing back Jimmy Garoppolo. Is not that the price is one thing, and if you can get that down, certainly that clears a lot of hurdles, but just given the context of what we've seen this season, the reason Trey Lance isn't starting is because the team believes in Jimmy Garoppolo. It's not because Kyle believes in Jimmy Garoppolo, right? So I think when you look at it like that, the team needs to be fully bought into Trey Lance. They don't need to have any, instance of, oh, look, Jimmy's still here. Trey Lance is struggling his first couple games. Maybe we should bring Jimmy back. Jimmy wins. We can get to the playoffs with Jimmy. This is a winning team. Like you could see what potentially happens if they bring back both these guys. Trey Lance is the anointed starter, and then something goes wrong. To me, that is like worst case scenario, because then you're dealing with an actual quarterback controversy. Like an awful quarterback controversy, actually. So I think for Trey Lance's own sake and for the team's sake, bring him in, make Tyler Huntley your backup next year. That guy who's the backup for the Ravens. That's cool with me. Good. Bring in Tyrod Taylor as your backup. There are 5 to 10 guys who I'd very happily bring in. Gardner Minshew as a backup quarterback who can actually come in and play games if you need them to. Jimmy Garoppolo can do that, but he can also disrupt this team. into believing in Trey Lance. And that's why I think you can't bring Jimmy Garoppolo back for the team's own sanity. You just can't do it.
I did not look at it that way. And when you say it like that, you know what? No, don't bring Jimmy Garoppolo back. I did not look at it that way, okay? I did not look at it that way. I was like, okay, you know what? Jimmy Garoppolo, cheaper price, why not? But you gave a pretty convincing argument. At the same time, now I'm changing my answer, and I agree with Ben said, because I didn't look at it that way. I was just like, cheaper price, Jimmy Garoppolo as a backup, why not?
Hey, I think he'd be a fine backup on other teams, but considering how the locker room feels about Jimmy Garoppolo and I'm serious.
No, I'm talking about the
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, from what we've seen from the locker room this year, the way they've reacted to this whole situation, it's pretty clear to me they got to just, cut that tumor out. Get Jimmy out of your system. You don't need him on this team any longer. He has done his job. He has paid his dues.
Yep. Moving on to the next topic, Debo extension? Question mark. I get it. You're like, what are you asking here? The question is, should the 49ers pay Debo Samuel as an elite wide receiver, or has elite players like elite wide receivers would get? Should the 49ers pay Debo Samuel big bucks?
Yes, and they should do it this offseason, because if they don't do it this offseason, they're going to have to pay him even more the offseason after. I mean, we just see the way it works in the NFL. Every time the next guy is up for the contract, they're getting to be the highest paid guy. So first, I look at this situation as, do I want Debo Samuel for the long term? I absolutely do. And because of that, the earlier you sign him, the better it is for the 49ers, right? To me, you could not extend him this offseason, and then he could come back, struggle a little. You could get him on a cheaper price. He could also just ball out 2 years in a row, and you'd have to pay him like $30 million. The point is, if the 49ers do it this offseason, he's probably in that $19 to $23 million APY range, and that's average per year. Honestly, top-rate receivers last season were getting paid $27 million. I think that's what D-Hop got. And I know Julio, trying to think of Julio's deal, but with recent receivers, 19 to 23 million for Debo is a bargain in my book. So considering how the rest of the league is going with the receiver position, how things have gone for Debo Samuel, you need to do it. You need to extend them, and you need to extend them now, because the longer you wait, the more money you're going to have to pay him. With a guy like Debo Samuel, they can also structure his contracts in a very favorable way if they get it done this offseason. Not that they can't if they do it in the future, but in terms of long-term planning, getting Bosa and Debo in the same offseason and figuring out how to build around those extensions along with all the other premium players you're playing, Trent Williams, George Kittle, Fred Warner, if you're able to figure out all the gymnastics of that this offseason, great, because then those are all of your premium players that you have paid. You do not have to worry about extending people in the future, maybe until Brandon Ayuk. That's the next guy you're looking at, right? But yeah, Debo Samuel, his extension, they absolutely need to give it to him now, because I think the longer you wait, could he get hurt and could his price drive down? Sure, that's a possibility. But if he even just stays at the same level or is just healthy for an entire season next year, it doesn't play quite to that level, he's still going to be more expensive than he was this offseason, because the way the NFL works. So you got to do it, and you have to do it as soon as possible with Debo.
Yes, I definitely do think the 49ers should give Debo an extension, because Debo has just been amazing this year, straight up amazing. I think he's a top 5 receiver this year. He's one of, we look at other guys, obviously they're great receivers like Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, but what Debo Samuel does is amazing. He's probably one of the best, if not the best, gadget player in football.
He's the best weapon. He's the best offensive weapon. I hate using the word gadget player, because that insinuates that they can't do other things well. But for Debo Samuel, like I described to you, I think Tyreek Hill is one of the best offensive weapons in the league. I think Devontae Adams is a better pure receiver. Debo Samuel is by far and away a top 3, top 4 offensive weapon in the NFL. No question about that.
Yeah, I definitely think the 49ers should give him an extension, but the way I look at it is this. Now, I get people are like, pay him this $19 million a year, $20 million a year. But at the same time, I get it. Debo Samuel has been great this year. Now, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, the way I look at it is, you look at some of their previous contracts. Jimmy Garoppolo had a great 6-game stretch. They pay him big bucks. What happened? not that he's when he plays, he's not been playing well enough, but at the same time, he got hurt. He got hurt not once, but twice. You look at Eric Armstead. Eric Armstead obviously isn't producing at that level, but you look at the same thing with Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel, he's producing this year, right? But at the same time, if I pay Deebo Samuel $20 million for a 3 or 4 or 5 year contract, can Deebo Samuel stay on the field? That's my biggest question mark, and I really don't know. And that's my biggest concern. Is like, yes, if Debo can, even if Debo plays all 17 games next year, obviously his price will go up. But at the same time, how how much confidence do I have in Debo Samuel being able to stay on the field? And if you look at the previous contracts with the Niners, some of the big guys that they've paid, they just get injured, and the Niners are already an injury-prone team. So like, and Debo already he's been injured for his first 2 seasons. Even this season, he missed some games. So can Debo Samuel stay healthy? And that's my biggest issue at giving Debo this $20 million plus or $19 million contract a year and signing him to a long-term deal, because I just don't know if Debo Samuel can stay healthy. Now, when he plays, he's a straight-up beast, and we're seeing it this season. But at the same time, I don't want what happened to like a Jimmy Garoppolo or other guys that we've seen, even not with the Niners, but even in other teams around the league. Like, guys get huge contracts, but they're injury-prone players, and then teams pay their guy, and they just can't stay on the field. We've seen that happen before. And with Deebo Samuel, the Niners should definitely give him money. The Niners should definitely extend him, but at the same time, should Deebo Samuel be getting these $20 million a year? I'm not too sure, especially signing him to a 5 year contract or something like that, because I don't know if Deebo Samuel can stay healthy, and that's my biggest issue with it. Because when Deebo plays, he's great, but I just don't know if he can stay healthy, and I don't know how reliable he is, because we already know Deebo misses games.
Yeah, well, and I'll say this. I think the thing with that is really the thing with NFL contracts is the sooner you pay them, the better. And the main reason is because the price increases, right? But then you also have to pay that player for a longer period of time. That's the other part of that too. That's why I want to sign Deebo Samuel. I want to sign him to a 4 year, $80 million, $85 million extension, because I think he is well worth that over those 4 years. And I'm betting on that. Now, is the injury certainly baked into it? Yeah, because if he wasn't injured, I think he'd be worth $27 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of that is baking in the injury concern, right? So when you look at it that way, if Deebo Samuel never got hurt his sophomore season at all, if you just look at every single game he's played in, he is well worth those $27 million. So when you give me the opportunity to give him $21 million, and I can make that over a shorter period of time where you get younger Deebo Samuel instead of having to pay him a year later, paying him more money, and he's on a longer term deal. Yeah, there's certainly risk involved for it, but with Deebo, I think the risk is certainly well worth the reward, right? As we've seen with him. I think you know, there are advantages to waiting for him, but I think when you weigh out the advantages and the disadvantages, I I just wouldn't want to take that risk of waiting on Deebo Samuel. Also, you know what? The 49ers, you want to pay your best players, and you want your best players to feel good about their standing. So for them to drag it out like they did with Kittle, if they did that with Deebo too, it would just have the players who always talk about it being a family atmosphere. What they really talk about it being a family atmosphere is for, because just looking at the optics of the situation with Kittle, they waited it out as long as they could because he was injury prone, right? With Deebo, if they try and wait it out till he's injury prone, why would players really trust you as much? So when I look at everything within the context of that, the fact that you're going to have to pay him more money, that you're going to have to give him more years on his contract if you do wait, you just got to do it now, and you got to take that risk. You got to roll that dice, I think. And it certainly is a risk. I understand that. I understand the downside of it, but I think the risk is certainly well worth the reward, as we've seen with Deebo Samuel.
Well, I sure hope so. I think they should sign him right away, like you said, as soon as possible. When you can give Deebo Samuel an extension, do it. Go ahead.
Yeah, and a big part of it for me is because his price is going to be lower. It just is. He's not going to get 20. He's not going to get DeAndre Hopkins money, but what you can do is offer him $20 to $22 million APY per year. Give him some of that money up front. Maybe put some of it towards the back end of that deal. But yeah, I just think, look, the longer you wait, the harder it becomes for the 49ers to re-sign him, and the worse it becomes for the 49ers. So yeah, I think they gotta do it sooner rather than later, because the longer you
Yep.
wait, yeah, there's that downside of him getting injured. But honestly, I'm not as worried about that in the future, because it seems like Deebo Samuel's gotten his body right. Now, I feel like the only thing you would really worry about with Deebo Samuel in the future is hamstring stuff, groin stuff, because when you have players who are that fast, who are moving at those kinds of speeds, they do get those little things like we saw him get earlier this season, right? Those sort of things can happen. But I think like the broken foot, that kind of thing that we saw from him, unless there's some freak thing, it seems like he's gotten his body at the right weight. He's the right size. And yeah, I would just trust him to be as healthy as possible in the future, because he's setting himself up to be. So, yeah, I would feel good about paying Deebo Samuel. Look, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. There are just some things that you have to take risks on in the NFL.
And we've seen it not work out. Like, I get it. We waited on Kittle, but at the same time, we've seen Kittle. Like, Kittle, my biggest concern is I don't know when Deebo's on the field. I know I can get production out of Deebo, and if we
Right.
sign him to a contract, I'm not worried about the production on the field. My biggest issue is, can he stay on the field, and can he play 17 games in the season? Can he be available? And that's my biggest issue with Deebo Samuel. We saw it with Kittle. I completely forgot about Kittle, but we saw it with Kittle, right? Kittle on the field is a beast. He's a straight up beast. He's a
When
huge
he's
part of this
healthy,
offense.
he's
When he's
great. Yeah.
healthy, he's great. But when he's not healthy, we've seen him work on the offseason. We've seen him lift weights for George Kittle, he's ready. He's not. And then we've seen him got injured this year in the beginning. We've seen guys like George Kittle and like Deebo Samuel also. He's been injured. He's been in injury. He's had some injuries. Now, I don't think it's going to be as severe.
And
But
I
at the
think
same time,
the point I'm getting to is that those $21 million you're paying him, that's baked into the fact that you think there's potential he may get hurt, right? So, listen, if he came back, in 2022, he played all 17 games, he had just as good of a season, the 49ers are going to be paying him like 10 plus more million dollars per season. And they're going to be having to pay him for more years.
yeah.
So when I think about it that way, yeah, like, could he get hurt? Sure. But if he does get hurt, it's certainly well worth it, considering what it is if he doesn't get hurt. And if he is healthy, even if you lose him for a full season, like the downside of not paying him to me is just not worth it. You don't want to take that risk with him.
I'm just being a little bit conservative because I've seen what happened with Kittle.
Yeah. Hey, you got to be concerned, but sometimes you just got to be able to make a decision. You just got to pull the trigger. And I think the 49ers.
I get it.
Well, and I think the thing is, right, is that no matter what, I think they'll extend Deebo. So when I take that into consideration, that's why you do this earlier rather than later. Is because if there was some possibility of them trading him, I'd be like, maybe wait it out, because at least you can try and get more value for him. But yeah, I would bribe Deebo to take a friendly deal too. But I mean, hey, you could just give him like 3% of the 49ers or something, give him ownership, do something like that. Isn't that what the Lakers are doing with LeBron? I mean, they're just, letting him do whatever he wants.
King James.
Yeah. But by the way, how's that working out right now? I mean,
we're talking football, okay? We don't talk about.
Oh yeah, no, I don't want to have to spend an hour clowning your Lakers. It's one of my favorite pastimes.
We don't read that. It's kind of unnecessary. Like we don't got to bring up the Lakers and basketball. We're talking some Niners and Niner football. We're not worried about basketball right now.
Yeah, hey, I know Lakers fans really gotta love that Russell Westbrook trade now, right? Oh my God, just brilliant moves by them, right? Bringing in, hey, LeBron James at the end of his career, getting injured for the first time. Anthony Davis, who's made it glass, and then you bring in Russell Westbrook, who, yeah, I mean, really peak of his career right now. Just brilliant stuff by the Lakers.
I mean, what's going on with FSU then, huh? What's going on with FSU? I mean, FSU football team kind of
hey, I know we're I know we're bad. There's no question about that. The Lakers think they're good. That's the difference.
I mean, we're still gonna make the playoffs. Like, we're not worried about not making the playoffs. Are we?
Yeah, I thought this was a championship team, though.
No.
Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis, LeBron James.
We're not talking about the delusional Lakers fans, okay? But it's also delusional Warriors fans, okay? there's also very delusional Warriors fans. Like I'm just saying, like
hey, I'm placing a bet right now on the Warriors to win it all. So
oh my
I'll
god,
throw me in there with those delusional Warriors fans.
there's delusional Warriors fans such as I mean not I mean I've seen all over Twitter, but at the same time like my uncles. I'm the only Lakers fan in my family, and like being a Lakers fan in my family is like worse than like like killing someone. Okay, it's like worse than killing someone. That's how
Yeah,
bad it is being a
I don't
Lakers
blame
fan.
them. I hate the Lakers. I hate the Lakers.
I mean, you have the right. You know what? You're covering the Lakers, but at the same time, what happened? What happened? What happened when the last time the Heat made the finals? Would you like to bring that up, huh? The
You
last
remember
time the Heat made the
when
finals.
two of their five starters were out the entire series?
I mean,
That time?
excuses. But last time I checked, the last time the Lakers won the finals, it was against who? The Miami Heat. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I'm struggling right now.
and that team shouldn't even have made the finals, and they did anyway. So
Did you win? Did you win?
I
Did you beat?
see you, Benjamin Camper. I see you, Benjamin
Did
Camper.
you win? Lakers are straight dog water, even though they're my favorite team. I mean, they suck straight up right now. They do, but at the same time, I will not let a person trash talk my team. I will still be a fan. All right. All right.
Let's go
Moving
to
on.
the next topic. Yeah.
Let's move on to the next topic. Score predictions. Keys to the game. Tomorrow is the 49ers vs. Titans
Ooh,
game. What
yeah.
is your score prediction? What are the keys to the game? What do the 49ers have to do if they want to beat the Tennessee Titans? And if they want to go 9-6?
Okay. Well, first of all, it looks like we're going to get Julio Jones for this game, which is very bad news for the 49ers. It looks like A.J. Brown could potentially pay. That's still kind of up in the air right now. But so in terms of keys to the game for the 49ers, they have to figure out how to establish the run in creative ways. This is one of the better run defenses in the NFL. They have a great interior defenders. They have a really great safety, a really underrated safety. And this is a really good defensive coach who's smart and who I think is one of the more underrated guys in the league in terms of that. So looking at this Tennessee game, look, the obvious first thing is you have to either win the turnover battle or completely limit your turnovers, right? That is number one for the 49ers always. But outside of that, if you can run the ball, you should beat this team, no question. If you can run the ball, you should beat this team because this is like I said, it's a really good run defense, and Kevin Byard is a stud, right? So if you can neutralize how good that run defense is, and then throw it like 27 times and allow your playmakers to do their thing, you should absolutely be able to tear up this team. I think on the defensive side of the ball, that's the easier assignment for the 49ers, right?
Yeah.
Defensively, there are things they can do to neutralize guys like AJ Brown and Julio if they do play, considering that, you know what, they don't have Derrick Henry. This Titans team, even though they can still run the ball somewhat, they don't have that guy, right? That they relied on, who's the identity of their football team forever. So when I look at this game, if the defense can even turn the ball over once, they should absolutely win this game. Like no question about it, right? So if the defense can get a turnover, if the 49ers can run the ball, like either of those things happen, they should no question win this game to me. And now if they can do both of those things, I think they'll kill the Titans. But I don't think that's necessarily going to happen. So if the run game isn't going well, get an interception, get a turnover, cause a fumble. I see this game playing out in the Niners' favor, I want to say. But I think it's going to be closer than it sounds like I'm saying. I predict a 21-17 game, just because I think it's a low-scoring game. Like I don't think this game is going to get out of hand, right? But I think they should be able to handle the Titans offense well enough, even though they'll get a few plays here and there. And then I think for the 49ers offense against that defense, if they can do something to neutralize that run defense for the Titans, they should win this game.
Yep, it's definitely gonna be a tough game, right? The Niners have to run the football well, and they
Yeah.
also, this game is, I think, it's more important for the offense to play well than it is for the defense because the
I
offense really
agree.
needs to put up points because we already know the
Well, because
cornerback.
I think that Titans defense is much
Yeah,
better than they get
the
credit for.
Titans. Yeah, the Titans defense is a good defense.
It's the
They just
strength
are.
of their team.
Yeah, it is. It is
People
one of the
haven't been
strengths of the
talking
team.
about that.
Yeah, obviously in the offseason, we're like, oh, the Titans, Julio Jones, AJ Brown, Derrick Henry, what a
Yeah.
combination. They're stacked, But then at the same time, that defense has been playing pretty well this season. It's definitely improved a lot from what it was last season to
Oh
what
my
it is
God.
now.
Yeah.
It's improved a lot. But the Niners have to run the football well, and defensively, I'm not worried defensively because I've already seen the defense has been playing well. Even pretty much the whole season, you could say outside the Arizona game and maybe I think one other game, the defense has been pretty solid this year. With
Even that Arizona game, man. I mean, they weren't great against Arizona, but also the 49ers offense had 2 fumbles in the red zone. So I think when you look at overall, the 49ers defense has been a lot better than they've gotten credit for this year.
Yeah, the defense has been good, but that Arizona game, they made freaking James Conner look
Oh,
like Earl
yeah.
Campbell out there. Okay, James Conner looked like he was a Hall of Famer. Okay, that's how good James Conner looked. But I'm not worried about the defense. Offense, if they can run the football well, I think Jimmy Garoppolo can make the throws. You see him make the throws last year. Jimmy Garoppolo can make the throws when he needs to throw the ball 20 times. He has to make those, quick
And you don't
passes with the
fear
ball
any of
hitting.
these Titans corners, right? You don't fear George Kittle or Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk or even Jawan Jennings going up against these guys. It's favorable matchups for the 49ers in that sense, where it isn't favorable as the run game, right? So even if they can't get the run game going, if the defense can get an extra play, get a touchdown, something like that, if some special teams can do something.
Special teams.
Let's
Did you just say special teams? If special teams can do something.
Special teams.
Special teams. Ooh, putting your faith. Putting your faith in the special.
No,
teams,
but if the special teams can make a play, or the defense can make a play, a really positive play, like I think about that Eagles game last night. Did you see that play where Dallas Goedert catches the ball, drops it, hits his heel, and it hits back to Landon
off, yeah.
My point is if a play goes like that for the 49ers, like that sort of game-swinging play, they should win this game, no question about it.
Easily. Yeah, but I think the Niners get this done. I'm going to say 24-21. Okay. I think the Niners get it done. I think they get the W, but I definitely think it's going to be closer than a lot of people think. Yeah. Obviously, when people look at the injuries, they're like, oh, Taylor Lewan's out, Derrick Henry's obviously he's been injured. Oh, the Niners are going to blow the Titans. I know it's going to be close because the Titans, for whatever reason, the Titans are a team that always puts up a fight, just like the Lions. Okay, just like the Lions. For whatever reason, the Lions are like a dog that you can't put down.
The Lions are like the best bad team I've ever watched in my life. Like, they are not a good football team, but they are the best bad team I've ever watched.
Before we get out of here, I would like to say 2 things. One, give your props to Dan Campbell. I don't think Dan Campbell.
Hey, shout out Don Bird too. Shout out Don Bird.
Don Bird, yes, Don Bird is a huge Lions fan. Dan Campbell, I don't think he's going to win Coach of the Year. Definitely not.
But
I don't think he should.
He should.
It should be him and Bill Belichick in the conversation. No line. I get why are they in the same conversation? Bill Belichick is winning with the rookie quarterback, and Dan Campbell is only winning 2 games. Dan Campbell, you look at every single game, he's been in it. Pretty much every single game he's in it. Even the Niners game, when we were blowing them out, they still almost won the game. Every single game, the Lions have put up a fight.
Yeah.
They put up a fight every single game. You look at other new coaches like Urban Meyer, Robert Saleh. Those guys have more talent. They have more talent on their team, and they get blown out pretty much week after week after week.
Well, I wouldn't say that about the Jets, honestly. But yeah, maybe the Jaguars.
The Jets suck.
The Jets might be the least talented team in the NFL, actually.
Not over the Lions. You have C.J. Mosley, Corey Davis. You have Zach Wilson, who's a young gun. You have Elijah Tucker. Who do you have on the line outside of?
Two of those 4 players you just mentioned haven't even really been playing for the Jets this year. I mean, when you actually look at who's been
playing.
Yeah, but he hasn't been what they wanted and what they're paying for. And then a guy like Corey Davis, all their weapons have been hurt. So I think if you look at the Jets team is currently sitting, I would actually prefer the Lions because at least their offensive line is good. At least they have running backs who are good. At least Amon-Ra St. Brown is something, It's
He's
not
all right. He's all right.
awful.
He's not
Yeah,
bad. He's not bad.
he's a good wide receiver too. I mean, they have to play him as wide receiver 1,
Yeah.
but he's a nice little wide receiver too. So
I mean, the Lions with every team healthy outside of DeAndre Swift.
I mean,
DeAndre
every
Swift,
team
TJ
healthy, but
Hawkinson,
the Jets'
and
injuries
things.
this year, they're
Yeah,
the least talented team by far. I think like Zach Wilson is just like I believed in him
I don't think
before the
over the
season.
Lions.
No, I have to disagree, man. I think the Lions are a little more talented than the Jets. And hey, man, you're forgetting about
That's a
DeAndre
bold one.
Swift.
That's a bold one. The Lions are the Jets are more less talented team than the Lions. Okay. I mean, I barely knew who the Lions had on the roster before the season started outside of Swift and Hawkinson. And who's that center that they have? I forgot the center.
Ragno,
Ragno and Sewell.
Sewell, and their left
Outside of
tackle
those
is
guys,
excellent. I mean,
and
I think
Akuda. Outside of that, I'm like,
yeah, I
who?
mean, but Jeff Okudah got hurt the first game of the season for
He's
them.
not that good.
He's not that good anyways. But yeah, I mean, just arguing semantics.
I don't know why we're having a debate about the Lions and the Jets.
Man,
like
the
I don't
Lions,
think anybody has debates about the Lions and the Jets. And also shout out to Rad and Joseph Dion. Both those guys I had on in the beginning of the season when the Niners played the Lions. And both of those guys are diehard Lions fans, which I don't know how. It's tough being a diehard Lions fan. Like I would not.
Man, you
I
get
would
born
not
into
wanna be.
something, it's just
It's sad. I mean, it's sad being a Lions fan. Okay, it's very sad. Wins don't come that often. Making the playoffs don't come that often. Winning playoff games hasn't come. I don't think both of us weren't alive the last time the Lions won a
that's
playoff
true.
game.
That's
So
true.
it's a long, long time. But last thing before we get out of here, I appreciate you for joining me, Ben. We already went an hour. Red&Gold goes a long time, man, with me and you going on about the Lions and the Jets and the Los Angeles Lakers and their struggles. But the Seahawks have had a losing record. Can we give a round of applause for the Seahawks having a losing record this season, please? Yes. It feels great. It feels great. I feel like I'm gonna be. I don't like Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm gonna say it feels great, baby. It just feels amazing. The Seahawks have had a losing season. Nothing better. And if the Niners pull off a W tomorrow, it'll be amazing. So, I mean, that basically wraps up the show. If you haven't checked out Ben's channel already, go do so. The link is in the description. Ben's channel. He does Channelytics, which is an amazing name, by the way. The first time I heard that name, I was like, "Damn, that where did that come from?" That's an amazing
I
name.
thought about that one for a little while before I brought it out into the public. I'm not gonna lie. But also one thing, if you go check out my Twitter, I just put up this chart. Talking, it was with QB aggressiveness percentage compared to turnover worthy play rate. I thought it was pretty interesting. Go check that out. Give it a like if you don't mind. And yeah, let me know what you think about that. I thought it was a pretty interesting study. I see Pinor in here, and Ben Camperman. So shout out to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, go check. Yeah, go check that out. I think it's a really interesting chart. If you don't like Jimmy Garoppolo, you're certainly gonna like this chart. So I'll say that.
So then I might, I would have to check it out after the show. If you know what I'm saying. I don't like Jimmy Garoppolo, but I appreciate everybody in the chat. Obviously, Pinor is a loyal supporter of the channel. I appreciate it. Pinor, when is Pinor going to start his own channel? That's the real question.
He is very popular on the Twitter Spaces these days. So hey,
I see him all over Twitter Spaces.
He's hosting Twitter Spaces. He's doing his thing right now, man.
Every time I check my phone on Twitter, I see like Pinor in a Twitter Space or Pinor hosting a Twitter Space. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Pinor knows this stuff, so you should try his channel, Pinor. Check out Ben Camperman. Great guy. I think I'm gonna be on his channel tomorrow, possibly, and he's doing a show, power ranking show today at 4:00 PST. So go check out his channel.
That's in an hour to go check that out.
Yeah, I appreciate you for joining me. Also, Ben, check out his channel. Follow him on Twitter. Both those links are in the description. If you want to see that chart, the Twitter link is in the description for Ben. If you're not subbed to my channel, please go do so. It would be greatly appreciated. Hit this video with a like. The Seahawks finally have a losing record. The Lakers suck. So does the FSU football team.
Man.
And hopefully the Niners get a W tomorrow. Go Niners. And we'll see you guys next Wednesday.